Hello everyone, so this is a little unorthodox. Literally the day after I uploaded part 3 of our Lidia Basics guide, we get a patch update for version 4.2. Some of the Lidia changes are definitely significant, so I wanted to get this short video up quickly before we moved on to anything else. And on that note, expect another video here in a few days going over all of the changes for other characters that we've done guides for. The list isn't super gigantic, so it shouldn't take too long to make that. That out of the way, let's talk about Lidia. So first, I'm not going to go over the bug changes. They fixed some unintentional interactions. They aren't relevant to how you should be playing her, so I'll leave it at that. The rest of her list is unfortunately nothing good. It's literally all nerfs. I want to start small and work our way up to the bigger changes, so the first one I'll mention is the forward 1+2 string, which is now -15 on block on the last hit. Honestly, I don't think you should ever be randomly finishing this, considering it was already -14, but now there's even less reason to do so. Next, her hop kick recovers 2 frames slower for both characters. In other words, the interaction on block has been slowed down slightly. I didn't mention it in the previous videos, but her hop kick can be tricky to punish because it happens so fast, so even at -13 it would often go unpunished because the recovery for both characters happens so quickly, much like her strong whiff recovery. Nina is another character notorious for moves like this, but Lidia's hop kick is still -13 on block, so I consider this a minor nerf since it's merely bringing the move in line with other hop kicks. Next, let's go through the handful of damage nerfs that she got. Heaven and Earth 1 went from 21 to 17, TAW2 went from 25 to 22, the second hit of 3-2 went from 14 to 12, and the just frame version went from 16 to 14. Down forward 1-3 went from 20 to 17, down forward 1+2 went from 24 to 21, down back 2 went from 17 to 14, and down back 3+4 went from 22 to 21. You probably already see the theme here, but a lot of these have juggle implications, either as a launcher or as juggle filler. As you saw in the previous videos, her damage was really high, and it is still, even after these nerfs. It's just not quite as high, which I think generally speaking won't hurt her too much. The odd man out here is down back 2, and I'll be honest, I think that one is really significant. That poke is going from borderline top tier low poke damage down to average. It's still really good because it still does a lot, but that's a rough nerf. In a similar vein, 2 whiff recovery nerfs, one on 3-2 and the other on HAE 1+2. Both have increased whiff recovery frames, so they should be easier to duck and launch. Truthfully, although this is a big nerf to these 2 moves, I think this is entirely fair. Both of these yield free hits, so from a defensive perspective, you should be able to launch these if you duck them. So yes, it sucks, but it's hard to complain about it. Also, Heaven and Earth 1+2 can be reversed as it was irreversible prior. On that note, another big nerf, but also probably a fair one. Her Rage Drive is now only +15 on block instead of +27. We gotta be honest and say that +27 was really absurd. +15 is the same situation you get when forward 4-2 hits, so I think this is a nerf that will have minimal impact on how you play. Now for what I consider the 2 big ones. First, CFO2 is now -10 on block. This is your main check against buttons from CFO. It was -9, but now it's full on punishable with jab punishes. It's not the end of the world, but CFO2 being safe was a big deal in how you used your stances. Standard practice was to keep checking with that until it was clear that your opponent wasn't going to attack. Now you're going to have to be a bit more deliberate with it, since jab punishers can add up quickly depending on the character. Akuma, for instance, can launch you for that. I acknowledge the development team's logic on this, but I simply don't agree with it. There's no mix-up for CFO, and CFO2 does barely any damage on normal hit, so this was just totally unnecessary. In my opinion, it would have been far better to change the reward on it, on the counter hit at least, rather than changing the risk element, which now changes how you have to use it. But alas, we have to deal with it. Lastly, forward 3. This no longer knocks down, not even on counter hit, which I have to say is extremely disappointing. Personally, I see little reason to use this move anymore, and I certainly don't consider it an essential move any longer. The whole thing that made this good was the knockdown, since that would also give you a splat at the wall. It doesn't do chunky damage and only gives +4 on hit, which feels light given what it was. Moreover, they did nothing with the block frame, so it's still -9. They've basically turned it into a poke, but at -9 for a mid, that's not good. You can't do anything on block with that. It's a shame because this was a fun little move previously. And that's it for the changes. Now the good news from all this is that although this is a list of nerfs, they don't change how she plays in any meaningful way. Worst case, you may not use forward Part 3 as much, if at all, and you'll have to be a bit more careful with CFO2. Otherwise, everything else mentioned in the basics guides will still apply, so play her as you normally would. I wish you guys the best, and again, watch out for another video going over the other characters changes here in a few days. And with that, thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe here on YouTube. Also be sure to turn on notifications if you'd like to get alerted as soon as a new vid is uploaded. I also try to stream whenever I can, so the link to Twitch is down in the video description below. You will find Twitter and Facebook links down there too. Lastly, special thanks to our 3 patrons, Tato, Apples, and Overhaul. That support means a lot. Patreon is definitely the best way to support your favorite content creators, and the more support the channel gets, the more content I can afford to do. Stay safe everyone, and we'll see you next time.